Pro wrestling talk from the four corners of parts unknown. This is That Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome to That Wrestling Podcast at That WrestlePod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I am Jason Marchuka, and the guys are all back this week. Brian Christie, hello.
It's good to be with you, fellas.
Kevin Cox, hello.
What's up, guys?
And Joe Cool, hello.
Hey, what's going on?
So this week,
all right.
No,
I'll cut that.
You went too far. You went too far.
Start over.
Damn.
Start over.
Kevin's usually the one that goes too far.
Hey,
I'm Joe. I wear sunglasses indoors. I'm cool. I go too far. Whatever, man.
All right, start
All
over.
right. So this week we're doing something a little different with the show. It's a show about one of my favorite things: pro wrestling merchandise, and it's all about the collectibles. It's about the belts, the T-shirts, the figures, everything that could be made with a wrestling person on it. We're going to talk about it tonight. But before we get into that, we're going to start the show like we do every week. What are you wearing?
What are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing today? What are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing today?
Because this is a wrestling podcast, wrestling shirts are mandatory. And every week we will check in on what the cast and crew are wearing. I decided to break out, since this is a merch episode, I went with the WrestleFest t-shirt from our friends at Homage. If you like those old school, soft style retro shirts, Homage is the way to go. Joe, what do you got this week?
This week I have the Mega Powers Explode in honor of the Garbage Pail Kids. So it is the artistic work of drawn like Garbage Pail Kids from the 80s. And it's Hogan and Savage punching each other with an explosion in the background.
Where would one pick up a Garbage Pail Kids wrestling t-shirt?
I ended up finding it at Hot Topic. So you could find it at Hot Topic's website, about $20.
That's a good pickup. I think that was part of the Hotcast conversation we had a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Kevin, we'll go to you. What are you wearing this week?
Since we're all looking so glamorous tonight, I decided I wanted to also wear something glamorous. It's the Chris Jericho shirt.
Nice.
I also picked this up at Hot Topic. It was actually on discount. I think I got it for like $12, but it's just like so hot pink. It's bending down his glasses, looking at it. My wife made fun of me when I put it on, so I knew that it was going to be an awesome shirt. So,
bargain shopper, be thy name. Wow. And we'll wrap it up with Brian. What are you wearing this week?
Before I get to that, Joe, with Garbage Pail Kids, I know the cards used to always have the nicknames. So do they have nicknames? Like, is it literally Scary Terry for Hulk, right? Scary Terry? No? Okay.
No nickname on the bottom. No
right.
Macho Madness or anything like that. Nothing.
Okay. All right. Not a worry. Well, for my shirt, guys, I went with the guy that I got to feel like started the wrestling merchandise boom. I'm talking about Hulk Hogan. I got my Hulkamania shirt on, and I figure, that's kind of what started it all with him and the Vin Man in the WWF 80s heyday.
And make sure to go to social media, Twitter and Instagram. Use the hashtag TWP shirt and show us what shirt you're wearing. Because if you are listening to That Wrestling Podcast, there is a 97.3% chance you are wearing a pro wrestling shirt. And if you want to support That Wrestling Podcast, we are independent. We are on our own. We have no big corporations behind us. We have a t-shirt store at whatamaneuver.net. Just go to whatamaneuver.net. Search That Wrestling Podcast and pick up a t-shirt. Now, this episode is, like I said, it's a little different. We're talking about professional wrestling merchandise. And for me, the earliest memory of pro wrestling merchandise are the big rubber LJN figures.
Oh, yeah.
And, the memories of that line, I've got two. And the one Christmas, my mom bought me a bunch of them. She had to put them on layaway at Hill's department store, which I know I'm aging myself with layaway. Ann Hill's department store. But I remember it was like 10 to 15 of them she put on layaway, and it was a great Christmas. And then that Christmas, I remember I don't know why at 7 years old I had a camera, but I was taking pictures of the wrestling figures in the ring. So I essentially created wrestling figure photography with my pictures. Now, unfortunately, going through storage, I could not find any of those pictures, but just know I created wrestling figure photography. So, Brian,
I feel like wrestling figure photography is a new channel on Peacock, by the way. We're going to have to look that up. Yeah, I had a couple as well. I had a good handful. I had Hulk. I had Andre with the blue tights and the poofy hair. I had Piper. And I might have had either Nikolai Volkov or Junkyard Dog. But I had those, and I didn't have the ring. And one of my neighborhood friends did. So that was one that, you get together with the boys in the neighborhood, you play with those. So I started with those. And then I also started with the thumb wrestlers, where you had to put your sorry, Mean Gene. Sorry, I'm getting you here. But you had to put your thumb in the back of the wrestler, and I'll see if I can find the photo. I think I've shared it with you guys before of maybe my 9th birthday. I've got a birthday cake with like Junkyard Dog and Nikolai Volkov thumb wrestlers on the cake, and the cake's like a little wrestling ring. Yeah, that's how it all started for me too, man.
Joe?
I know I had the Savage, I had Junkyard Dog, Volkov, and Sheik, because the Sheik had the pointy boots. I had the George Animal Steel. Those are the ones and Jesse Ventura in his walk like an Egyptian pose for some reason, if anyone remembers that. But Brian, I had the ring. And But my older brother and I, you said you invented wrestling photography. I think we invented the
wrestling figure photography. Get it right.
Yes,
Joe.
I think we invented the Royal Rumble, because like back when that came out in like '85, we would put all the LJNs in the ring. He'd take one side, I'd take the other, and we would just shake the crap out of it until there was only one wrestler left in there, and that's who would end up being the ultimate, like, over the top rope battle royal winner. So we invented the Royal Rumble.
No, that's a battle royal, not the Royal Rumble. But hey, whatever.
No, but
Kevin,
we invented it.
No, Kevin, you have a history of like flea market finds and like Facebook Marketplace finds. You have LJNs with you, don't you? I can see it in your face.
I do. Joe mentioned the walk like an Egyptian Ventura. He's
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys were naming all the guys up. I got the Hogan, George the Animal Steel, Hillbilly Jim. I'm looking at Macho Man. I'm looking at Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Yeah, I have about 12 of them and a collector case. But yeah, I love going on Facebook Marketplace and just I type in figures and see what comes up. Like a couple of days ago, a lady in where I live, she was selling 5 old Hasbro figures, Demolition, Duggan, in the 2 different Ultimate Warriors, $12.
Gotta do it.
I messaged her, like, hey, I'll pick them up tomorrow. How about $15? And she's like, done. So I met the lady in a school parking lot, gave her $15, and I love them. Like, they're just in a plastic bag. I'll never play with those old ones. They're just gonna sit there. And I did bring them out, and my son was like, oh, yeah, let's play with those. So he brings up over his, he has like 50 of like the newer style, the taller guys. They all look very similar. And he brings in his ring. He's like, let's play with the new guys. I'm like, no, these guys are just gonna sit there. I'm like, because they're kind of like, not flimsy, but I don't want to break Duggan's arm off, or I think Demolition guy already has like a floppy arm that doesn't really have much spring action to it. But
well,
yeah,
the Hasbros, I was going to bring those up next. The resurgence of those over the last couple of years and the value is ridiculous. Like if you can find them mint on card, they go for quite a bit. So even though you got the loose ones there, and I think you could let your kid play with them, I'm sure they'll be okay. Got sidetracked there. Jax, the classic superstar line. Now, these were, for me, I love because they made everybody had a figure. So, I mean, if you wanted Earthquake and Typhoon, you could find it. Doink the Clown. I mean, Yokozuna, and of course, like Macho Man and Ric Flair, and those ones, if you can find those in the box, they'll definitely have some value to it. And then over the years, Mattel took over the license, and they have their basics, which are essentially kid toys. You know, they're $8. There's nothing to them, no accessories, you know, hardly any articulation. And then the elites, which are, you know, a little bit better. And then they just came out maybe 2 years ago with the Ultimate Edition. And these are some killer action figures, and the packaging, I mean, it's like art. It is like absolute art. Joe, Brian, any interactions with, you know, do you have the Hasbros, do you have the Jacks and Mattels, anything like that?
I don't have anything like that. I grew up and became an adult, so that's cool. But I do have. Sorry to no sell the.
Oh wait! This just came in. That Wrestling Podcast would like to wish Brian Christie the best in his future endeavors.
Leave the memories alone. No, I've got and these are still in rotation now that I have my two girls. I've got the wrestling squirters. So
okay.
These are perfect for bathtub or in our pool in the backyard. I've got the Mega Powers here with the Hulkster and Macho. I've got
Were those from when you were younger?
Yeah, these are mine. So I don't remember. I can't date them exactly, but they were mine. And yeah, I've got Big Boss Man there. We got Jake the Snake, and finally the one random one, Marty Jannetty. We determined Marty Jannetty, no HBK. He got put through the barbershop window and got his own squirter guy. So my girls have fun with those. But yeah, that's kind of how it wraps up for me with the figures.
But did they make a Carlito spitter?
Oh, man.
Missed opportunity, if not.
And Joe, I mean, I know you're a pop vinyl collector like I am. Any interaction with like the Jacks and Hasbro and stuff like that from when you were younger?
No, I pretty much stopped collecting all that after the LJNs. I know some friends of mine had like the bone cracking figures.
Bone Crunchers, yeah.
The Bone Crunchers. I remember those, but yeah, I did not have really anything after the LJN for the longest time. I didn't start like getting collectibles again until I was in my late 30s. So that says a lot. I went from like 10 years old to late 30s, like almost like, 20 plus years of not buying anything to now buying too much of it.
Finally, the official last thing on this action figure thing, the AEW figures that just came out from Jazzwares, they are very well done. Jeremy Padower was the creative force behind the Classic Superstars line. And when I saw the mock-ups for the first set of AEW figures, I didn't like them because I thought the box looked too much like a Classic Superstar. Now, they're impossible to find in stores. I'm finally starting to see them. The first set was from the first Double or Nothing. And then every line, since they've been adding a couple new people, but then they've doing like another Cody, another Young Bucks, like their roster is so big. Every set could be all new people, but I don't think they need a Luther and a Luther figure. I don't know if it's going to sell, but
my Joey Janela.
Yes,
I want a Nick Densmore.
The AEW figures, though, by Jazzwares, they're outstanding. They are hard to find in stores. Ringside Collectibles, you can pre-order them, but it takes forever to get here. So, moving on from the figures and the toys, one of my favorite things growing up, which I know they make them, but they cannot be a moneymaker. Pro wrestling magazines. Where I grew up, we had a newsstand. It was called String Hills. And at String Hills, we could, they had comic books and magazines and it would be like Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler. But WWF magazine was my big thing. You know, it was all color, and it was like the shiny vinyl paper, like the good paper. Did you guys do any? Were you magazine kids at all, or?
I had the magazines. I had the the Macho Man with the championship belt, #1, and they had the inside the WWF magazine. They used to have the catalog to buy the shirts, and you'd see
The
a
merch,
very young
yeah.
Stephanie McMahon with the Andre the Giant shirt, where you could buy it in Andre size, and it was just the big red hand, if you remember that. So
yeah,
I remember the WWF magazine, but that was the only one that I ever got.
Brian?
I did. Yeah, I did a couple of those like Pro Wrestling Illustrated ones. Those, there would nothing be like consistent, but one would have to like grab me. And I can kind of remember one that teased Hulk and Jimmy Hart meeting with Ric Flair to talk about WCW. And I remember picking that one up going, hey, what's this? And I grabbed it. And, it's funny thinking back on it now that like clearly they were staged photos and like a staged story. But at the time, when I'm 11 years old or whatever I was, took it as gospel, like what's going on here? And so definitely I had some WWF magazines as well at times. But yeah, occasionally I'd find those ones, like you said, like Pro Wrestling Illustrated, that would cover all of wrestling, and maybe they would have their year-end countdowns. So those would be of interest. Fun stuff for sure. Fun memories.
The one cover magazine, I think it was Pro Wrestling Illustrated. It was Ric Flair. He was in a suit and he had a big bandage on his head, but he's holding the NWA title. And then if you watch some of those early Shawn Michaels documentaries, there are pictures of him as a kid doing like he dressed up like in a suit to like, pay homage to the Nature Boys.
But when we would go on like family vacations, we'd always, stop at a store like the night before, and I would always get like Archie or Jughead, double digest magazines, and then I got really into wrestling, so I'd always get those. And I remember one time, you open it up, little cardboard, you can do a subscription. So I had it for 1 year only. Like my mom got it for a year, and I don't remember why I didn't get why I stopped, but it was just really close to my birthday, and yeah, that was one of the coolest birthday presents, is getting 12, one issue delivered to your house a month. It was just cool. It was kind of like a treat. And then it became, every month it would come to the house. But yeah, I loved it. I loved reading it, when you're younger, as Brian touched base on, we're not just watching the program, right? We're reading it in there. Ooh, this is juicy stuff.
And that's how you would learn about people that weren't on TV, like Memphis and this, all the, Puerto Rico and Mexico, because one of them had the top 10 rankings in the back for every organization. They had like live card events, house show events. They had the results. The wrestling magazines were great. And you go on eBay, and if you type in Pro Wrestling magazines, the value and people that the value that people put on them, and then yet the people that will pay these crazy prices for magazines, I don't get that. I know I spend money on dumb shit, but the magazines, I don't get it. But I don't know. I think I'm going to go down to like the bookstore and buy some wrestling magazines, after we're done with this. Moving on to something that has really picked up during the pandemic. Sports cards in general have like become the big investment. Pro wrestling cards are in the boat. They're not as big as the basketball seems to be the top earner and things that people are buying. But pro wrestling cards. Now, Kevin, I know you have a big binder full of old WCW cards. We've talked about this a million times. You got it right there?
I do. I have 2 binders, actually.
What?
So, yeah.
Too big for one binder.
One binder, like Mania a few weeks ago. Yeah, like my pride and jewel is the WWF, wrestling card collector's album. And, it came with packs in the case itself. And, you took the packs out, but like everybody, you could ever think of, like Mean Gene, Slick, Bobby Heenan. And it's not just like a picture of them, it's Bobby Heenan, but with his logo. Like they're the very old school looking. So this one is primarily just my WWF, and then my big binder. It has some WWF in it, but majority of it is all old school WCW stuff.
Nice.
Tommy Rich, Steiner Brothers, Doom, Ricky Morton, Dutch Mantel, Luger, just a lot of good stuff. And I had to go inside my bins, inside my attic, and my wife's like, I didn't even know you had 2 binders in there. And I'm like, yep, and there better be 2 next time I go in there.
So Kevin, those WWF cards, are those the ones from 87 by chance?
What?
The reason I ask is because that year alone, I've been looking on eBay to try to buy some individual packs that are still sealed are going for hundreds of dollars for one pack. If you can find a sealed box, $10,000 people want for this. Wow. And people are buying. That 87 has a lot of what is considered rookie cards. Hulk Hogan, Andre. The Hogan one is going for thousands of dollars. So if you have some of those, you may want to see about getting them graded, because just go to eBay and type in wrestling cards, because you'll see what is there and then, what the potential value is. And the only reason I bring that up, I bought a pack of cards on eBay recently, and it was from the Classic line. Like Classic was like the shinier cards. Well, on the description on eBay, it said it was an unopened pack. Well, the pack of cards got to my house. I only paid like $7 for it, so it wasn't like I broke the bank or anything. Well, when I got the cards, the pack was open. And then it dawned on me the cards in the pack were in the photo listing on eBay.
Oh.
I'm like, motherfucker. So I messaged the guy. If anybody has bought things on eBay, you're supposed to leave feedback, positive, it helps ratings. And I'm fine doing it. Don't fucking message me and ask me to leave feedback. I will get to it. But this motherfucker messaged asking for feedback. And I said, well, eBay says I have to wait 7 days to leave negative feedback. And that's all I wrote. He's like, what do you mean? Why would you do that? What's wrong? And I said, look, man, I'm not asking for a refund, but the pack was open. And the cards in the picture were the cards in the pack. And he's like, no, that's not true. Look at the listing. I never said it was unopened. Well, dumbass didn't think I would take a screenshot that said unopened. And then I said, well, your listing says otherwise. That's all I wrote.
Nice.
Haven't heard from him since. But what's funny, the guy has 100 rating or 100 positives and 1 negative. Wow. It was the one, this guy.
Well, I heard of referee Danny Davis would have disqualified him. No, these cards are 1990.
Okay.
Like, all 1990.
And one of the cards that I got in the pack was a Dusty Rhodes. And it's said to be a rookie card. Now, I've seen it online for hundreds of dollars. But I have a hard time believing that, because if it was hundreds of dollars, this guy would not have included it in the pack. So, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, pro wrestling cards. I mean, I'm always looking for like the old vintage in a pack, because if you go to YouTube, a lot of people are breaking packs, and apparently it's a huge business where you could I would pay you, Joe, to buy a case of cards, and then you open them and then send me, which I don't understand, because opening the packs are like the best part. Right. And I really want to try to find some old school cards in the pack. And maybe we do something on YouTube. Maybe if we all look around, wherever we live in our different parts of Parts Unknown, maybe we can find some old vintage cards in packs. The best thing I want to do, though, is if we find them, I want to chew the gum.
Ooh.
Crackle.
There you go.
Brian, were you
like your teeth?
That was stale 30 years ago. I don't think it would be any better now.
It might be a fun thing for you to
give it a whirl.
Get some clicks. Brian, were you a card guy as a kid?
I didn't have a ton of wrestling cards. I definitely had a lot of football and basketball, but I do have, and I got to do the same thing that Kevin did just in my basement with all my cards. I know I've got a binder of Attitude Era cards.
Ooh, okay.
And so I'll have to pull those out. I apologize for not having it ready for today, but I can just picture, like, I don't have any picture right now of anybody great. Like, I'm picturing Crash Holly and Taz and Mighty Molly, now Hall of
Hall of
Famer, right?
Famer.
Yeah.
So it went up from 5 to 10 cents. So I'm gonna do some looking on that.
Okay, great.
and
That'd be awesome.
We'll see what we can come up with, but yeah. I mean, the cards just in general, it's interesting to see how it comes back, because it was like a dead industry, I thought, for years and years. And just because of the pandemic or some other connection reason, they're hotter than anything right now.
There is a documentary on Netflix. Do you guys remember Stu Stone, who's an actor? Him and Jamie Kennedy did a song called Rollin' with Saget.
No.
Anybody? Well, anyway, Stu Stone did a documentary on Netflix, and it's about baseball cards and how it was a dead industry. And then literally 2 years later, it's insane. One thing that you guys have made Peacock jokes throughout the course of this program, Peacock bought the WWE Network about a month ago. And in the time since, NBC Universal has been editing programming on the WWE Network. So I'm glad I never gave away or sold my DVDs. I have hundreds of them. I created the WWE Network before there was a WWE Network. That's how many DVDs I have. So with Peacock editing stuff out, physical media is your only opportunity to see some of these great things. Brian, you love ECW. How's that going to work?
That's a great question. Yeah. I mean, if the censors get a hold of all the ECW content, then whoa boy, we're going to have to see what ends up staying on random YouTube links and whatever else. It's a different time, man. You're right. Different time.
I still have like 20, 25 DVDs. I would say since I was paying for the WWE Network.
Okay.
I
don't think so much for my lawyer.
I don't think I've watched one of those.
Right.
And they've just been in a box, but I can definitely see going back and popping in the rise and fall of ECW. I think that one's gotten the most play of a lot of my DVDs. And it's just a fun watch.
And a lot of DVDs are how you would see people coming up. I've got a bunch of Kevin Steen, aka Kevin Owens from the Indies, the Young Bucks, a lot of Ring of Honor type DVDs. So while majority of them are WWE, I have a lot of indie stuff, and that's where I'll throw those in from time to time.
I don't have a lot of them, but the ones I have are the ones that are going to be pretty much taken off of Peacock. I have the Attitude Era collection DVD,
okay.
So that's going to be gone. I have the Best of Raw 15th Anniversary DVD, which has the top 100 moments of Raw from 90, from 93 to whatever 15 years afterwards was. Don't make me do math. 2008. Okay. There you go. And then I have the cassettes of them too, and I have the cassette of the unedited DX one where Triple H kidnaps Michael Cole to be his co-host. If you guys have ever seen that one's pretty classic. But there's a lot of things on there that would not fly, especially where they're making the pot jokes of X-Pac and Road Dogg. Hey, it's 420 in the production booth right now, and you can just see smoke coming from there and everything. So yeah, that's not going to make it either. But yeah, I was bummed, but in reality, like Kevin said, it's like, how often did you watch the DVDs when we had the network? I didn't really watch a lot of it when it was on the network anyway. I would never go back and say, I want to watch Raw from July of 98, or I want to watch ECW from November of 95. I just never did it. So if it's gone, leave the memories alone.
A lot of the DVDs that I got too were when WWE would do like the releases of like The Rock, and it would be like the DVD of his journey like the documentary, and here's like his 12 matches, right? So like
I have the
those would be-
Triple H and Macho Man one of those too. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Like I remember there's a great Jericho one. There's a great Edge one. Like, and so I remember getting a lot of those DVDs. And so I would think on the network, those will still survive, at least in most forms. But I mean, some of the ones you mentioned, Joe, maybe not so much, but those were more my
the one that's
purchases.
the Attitude Era. That's
Right.
gone.
Yeah, it's all gone. All gone. And Brian, those documentaries, I had a bunch of those. The first Jericho one was outstanding. And then the one that broke the mold was the CM Punk documentary.
That was a great one.
Because that's when they were going to Ring of Honor and getting footage and unbelievable and using licensed music and stuff like that. So those are definitely great ones. But I actually just bought 2 wrestling DVDs recently. During a Pro Wrestling Tees sale, they sell the AEW pay-per-views. And I bought the first Double or Nothing and Revolution from last year because I was there and I've never seen them. Like I've never watched them. And for some reason they have their matches. The matches from those ones aren't on YouTube. So I did buy those 2 DVDs just because I was there and, I wanted to have them. So the last thing for merchandise, T-shirts. Now we did the "What are you wearing" segment earlier. I'm the peer pressure king on this one with these guys. When we were planning for the podcast, I said, I want to do this thing with shirts. You got to buy shirts. I've got hundreds of wrestling shirts, most of them in my garage in storage. And over time, you will see them, whether I'm wearing them or maybe I'll just do go through a bin, on YouTube. But wrestling shirts. I appreciate you guys taking part. I know it took a little bit of I had to donate to the fund, but with the gift cards at Christmas. But what are your thoughts? I mean, I know, Joe, you said a couple episodes back you had like 5 wrestling shirts, and now you've like quadrupled it.
Yes.
Do you remember your first wrestling shirt?
I gotta say it was the Y2J shirt because I was at Survivor Series 99 and I didn't buy them as a kid. And if I did, I don't remember having them. But the first one I bought that was like, from WWF.com, where they had it at the, merchandise event, was the Y2J with the what it means, the definition on the back. That was like my first one. And then I went online 2 months later and bought the Jerichoholic one, which has the 12 steps of being a Jerichoholic. So I have that one as well. Obviously, big Jericho fan. And then I bought the knockoff NWO Wolfpack one, which says "Bad is back," and it has arrived on the back. And I did see the Goldberg sucks, Austin rules shirt, but I didn't buy that. But it just started going more and more. And then, of course, when I started talking with you guys and going to more events, I started buying the Austin 316, and now I got about 20 plus shirts.
My mom, single parent household, we didn't have a lot of money, but I remember memorable birthdays and Christmases. And I remember it was the only shirt I had for a long time was just the classic yellow Hulkamania shirt when I was younger. And then, and I have to mention this because it pokes fun at me and my fandom, but in high school, before I get to that, high school, it was kind of like a badge of honor to wear wrestling shirts too, because you kind of would realize, okay, this guy also likes wrestling. So I remember some days, you're wearing the NWO shirts, and even if you didn't know the kid, you go talk to him, you make friends. But when I was a junior in high school, back-to-back years, World War III came to the Palace of Auburn Hills in Auburn Hills, Michigan. And I remember when I was a junior, I got so excited because I was like, okay, my uncle's going to take me. My uncle was loaded at that time, so I knew he was going to probably buy me a shirt, right? So I was
because he was drunk?
No, no. I mean loaded as in money. So we go, and I was like, he gave me X amount of dollars. I'm waiting in line, and all these shirts are up, right? You got Hogan, you got Macho Man, you got NWO, Outsiders, everyone. And I was just like in awe, right? Because I get in a candy store, The one I end up picking is Conan shirt. And it's, I wish it's still somewhere in my mom's basement. It has to be. I don't remember ever throwing it out. But it was like an animated shirt, and it was like kind of like was it Gruff? What was the crime dog?
McGruff the crime dog?
Kind of like, it looks like him, but it is a backwards animated hat, and he's leaning against like a doghouse, and it just says like Conan, and then I have to find it. If I find it, I look forward to you guys making fun of me, or maybe even complimenting me on a future what are you wearing?
Yeah, I mean, I had to let you speak on that. But is that the K-Dog shirt you were talking? The legendary K-Dog shirt? Is that the one?
That's the K-Dog shirt, yeah.
Oh,
I have
yeah, you need to find that. My first wrestling shirt was the British Bulldogs. They had a Raglan shirt. It was the white with the red sleeves, and it had the Union Jack flag. I got it at WrestleMania 3. I watched it at the Palace Theater in Greensburg, Pennsylvania on closed circuit. And they had merchandise set up, which, looking back, that's pretty great. Like, I wish that was still a thing, like, regardless of whether it's closed circuit or going to a venue to watch a pay-per-view. I wish they had a merch stand, but to my knowledge as a kid, that is the only time I remember that happening. But the British Bulldogs Raglan shirt was my favorite. And they keep making these, very similar, but it's not the same. And I wish WWE would put it out. I mean, it's their IP. So make the shirt WWE, but the British Bulldogs was my first one, and a million after. And Brian, we'll wrap up with you. Do you remember your first wrestling shirt?
I looked it up. The date was April 12th, 1997. I went to a WCW house show at the Palumbo Center in Pittsburgh, Jay, because WCW couldn't run Civic Arena / Mellon Arena. And I bought a NWO For Life shirt. I had the 4 and the life under the classic white NWO. So yeah, that was my first one. I never had one as a kid. Just, always was a big fan. Never had one. I would love to run down the 6-match card if you guys have.
Please do. Before you do.
Yes.
I just bought that shirt, a vintage one. So I have it.
Nice. Yeah,
So
I think it eventually has left my household, but
let's run down the card. Before you do, let me guess. Yeah. I want to guess because I know.
Let's guess some wrestlers here.
The big boys didn't do house shows.
Right.
So your main event was probably something like, I don't know, Scott Hall against like Glacier.
I would go Glacier versus the Cat.
I'm gonna say Lex Luger versus Conan.
All right, Brian, run down the card from 1997.
We opened with some classic WCW cruiserweight action. Rey Mysterio Jr. defeats Super Callow. One of those guys turned out to be something. The other never heard from again.
Wasn't Super Callow Jerry Lynn?
I feel like maybe that was somebody else, but
okay.
We'll look at.
Go ahead.
Next was Conan, a man who we just referenced. He defeated the chairman La Parka. Some Mexican lucha libre adjace there. Yes, the next match, Buff Bagwell defeating, I believe it was his former tag partner, Scotty Riggs.
Oh,
the American
males.
Yeah,
American males explode.
Only at the Palumbo Center. Next match, one that I guess you would say would hold up. Jeff Jarrett defeats Chris Jericho.
Ooh, okay.
Couple of mainstays there. 2 matches left. We had a 3-way tag match. Lex Luger and the Giant, so pretty good, defeat the Public Enemy and Harlem Heat.
Ooh.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so we had that. And then your main event, DDP defeats Kevin Nash.
Wow.
So Nash went to a house show.
Not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. And I'll have to look into it more. I feel like, so this is December of 97, right? So this is NWO. This is Crow's Sting. I feel like Sting did come out of the rafters, and it was like, holy shit. Like, I never would have guessed that would have happened at a house show. I'll do some more digging and I'll get back to you maybe next week.
Oh, so yeah, wrestling shirts are my favorite. I think it's because they're the least expensive, and you buy one, get one for $1. A lot of places have the discount codes, and Pro Wrestling Tees, you can get a wrestling t-shirt from anybody. Whatamaneuver.net, get your That Wrestling Podcast t-shirts, and any of the merchandise that we talked about. If you got something you want to contribute, put that on social media at That WrestlePod. You can send a Gmail, thatwrestlepod@gmail.com. And now it's time for America's favorite, America's favorite feature, the 5 Count.
That Wrestling Podcast presents the 5 Count.
That's right, it is the 5 Count. Every week we pick a topic and we run down our 5 Count favorites. This week it is our 5 Count favorite merch items, whether we own them, don't own them. Let's get started with Joe. What is your 5 Count favorite merchandise items?
All right, I am going to go with number 5, the wrestling album, Pile Driver, Volume 2. I own that one. I wish I still had it, but my brother ended up taking it, and he lives southern parts of Unknown, so I'm not going to go back down there and try to get it from him, but I remember loving that album as a kid. So number 5, the wrestling album, Pile Driver, with Hogan on the cover. Number 4, the toy championship titles. I'm a fan of those ones because those are more for kids, not of course I would love to have the big gold belt like Jason has. That would be awesome. But I use the championship titles when I was in college. We would use it for like Madden tournaments or NHL on the PlayStation 1 tournaments, like have a couple guys over, have a couple drinks, and then at the end they'd have the belt and championship title, and they carry it around.
We say belt
here.
We say belts here.
You don't work for New York, so
I do not work for New York. So yes, we would have the belt. We put it over our shoulder, and we try to be big BAs. Number 3.
You can swear here too, Joe.
I choose not to. Number 3 would be, Brian mentioned it earlier in this episode, the Thumb Wrestlers. He had it on his birthday cake. It made number 3 on my list. They came in packs of 2, which was awesome as a kid because you'd always have someone to go against. And they would be just randoms. Like you'd have one that would have Hogan versus Nikolai Volkov, but then the next one, Volkov would be with Junkyard Dog or something like that. So I love the Thumb Wrestlers. Number 2, I never had these, but I always wanted one. The Wrestling Buddies pillows. Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, Macho Man, Big Boss Man, I think had one as well. So if you're ever down in Cobb County, Georgia, try looking for one of those. And number 1, it's obvious. You can't go wrong. LJN's, the wrestling toys. That was my number 1. I could have put anything else on there. I even thought of putting like pop vinyls, but nope. LJN's are the original. They're the bad boys. They're the ones you got to go with. So that is my 5 count. Brian, since you're the biggest collector.
Wait a minute.
No, you're not.
Why do you dictate who goes next?
Why not? Let's go with Brian.
Reason enough for me. So, I half jokingly teased earlier about, hey, I grew up, and I do kind of feel strongly about that. Merchandise, that's for kids, man, and that's good, and it's cool to be an adult and into it too. But the things that I picked, at least 4 of the 5, are primarily focused on kids. And my number 5 is a foam finger. And foam fingers, I feel like that started in the 80s with Hulk. I also considered Rob Van Dam the new Hall of Famer because he had the ones that went in. Stone Cold had the middle finger, which I'm like, my God, how did they get away with that? But the one I chose was Daniel Bryan with the Yes foam fingers. What's more fun back in the time of the Yes movement than doing the Yes chant in a sold out arena? Now you can put the giant foam fingers on and do it in a sold out arena and be taller than everybody else. So I thought that was really cool. Very clever for such a crazy phenomenon that the Yes movement was. My number 4 didn't have this either, but as a kid went, that's badass. Or maybe as a kid I said, that's bad butt. If that's
It's BA. It's
That's
BA.
The Legion of Doom spike shoulder pads. Yeah, those look so cool. I mean, LOD, Road Warriors, when they came out, they were so intimidating. And a big part of that was those spike shoulder pads. You are not messing with these guys. So that's my number 4. Seeing that as a kid, I thought you'd be extra tough with that. My number 3 is on your list too, Joe, the wrestling buddies. I never had a wrestling buddy, and I always wanted a wrestling buddy. Never got it. Yeah, Hogan, Warrior, I know my friends had. And, who as a kid didn't play wrestling on their bed and jump and do suplexes with their pillow and everything. So that's just the perfect toy. I don't know if they make those anymore, but they need to. My number 2, we've talked about this on the show before. Goldberg sucks, Austin rules, the shirt. Somebody's got to get it for me. To summarize it, I bought it twice. I never got it in the mail. They always sent me the wrong ones. That's my number 2. So hope maybe one of these days we'll knock that off the list for real. And finally, my number 1, the Winged Eagle title belt. Now, that one I could see getting now and really appreciating it. Hulk Hogan wore the Winged Eagle. Macho Man wore the Winged Eagle. Andre, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, and I believe Stone Cold retired it. He got the new belt like the next day after Mania 14. It's classic belt. Why did they change it? Who knows? Maybe merchandising wise. But that's my number 1. That would be pretty special, the Winged Eagle belt.
Well, Brian, you can get the Goldberg sucks Austin rules shirt on eBay. So it'll be a reproduction, but still, if you want it, it is available. You can find it. So for mine, we talked about action figures earlier, and these ones, I never understood why, but I always thought they were the coolest. The Maximum Sweat line. You put water in the back, and they would sweat. I don't know why. I always thought the Maximum Sweat ones were cool. So that's my number 5. The number 4, the $1 Million Belt. Now,
real good one.
It was just something that was so different, and obviously it'll never come back, which is great. Like, it doesn't need to come back, but I want to. Every time there's a sale on WWE Shop, I look at it. I'm like, maybe, but no, I don't. I haven't pulled the trigger, but maybe down the road I would pick it up. That might be maybe Triple H will bring that to NXT. And Cameron Grimes can bring back the $1 Million Belt. Number 3, I actually own this one. Joe, you wanted Pile Driver. I prefer the wrestling album. Now, what's great about this particular version, this came out on Record Store Day a couple years ago, and it was a hard find. But not only do you get the wrestling album, 1, you get the wrestling album 2, Pile Driver, on collector's yellow vinyl.
Wow.
And Joe, if you would like, because you're my friend, I have another copy of this in plastic if you would like to purchase it for a reasonable price.
I will trade you 4 Little Caesar WCW hologram cards for it.
$400, I heard.
If you have 400 cards, maybe we'll talk.
Bad.
But no, the wrestling album was just one of those things I remember as a kid. I had it on cassette. It's got, Don't Go Messing with a Country Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Tutti Frutti. That's Brian's favorite. He loves when DJ sings. Grab Them Cakes. Real American, which, little known fact, on this album, it's not for Hulk Hogan. It's for Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, the U.S. Express.
Yep. That's awesome.
And then Hulk Hogan's theme, which is I believe the theme for the rock and wrestling, or the cartoon, Hulk Hogan's rock and wrestling cartoon. Yeah, so I definitely enjoy this. From time to time, I'll throw this on the turntable and listen. So the wrestling album is my number 3. Number 2 is another item I have, but it's on a shelf, and I'm not bringing it all down just for this. There'll be some pictures right now. It is the big gold belt. It was given to me as a gift by my wife when I graduated college many years ago. And over the course of the years, I got Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan to autograph the belt. So it's just been on a shelf. And now I'm going to get it. I'm going to take it to like a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's, and I'm going to get it framed up. So it'll be a nice display piece. And the number 1 merch item that I have on my 5 count this week is something that I like to call the greatest action figure of all time. It is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Macho Man Randy Savage snap into a Slim Jim figure. This thing is so well done. I mean, he comes with Slim Jims. Slim Jims. This is the greatest figure ever. And that is like I said, I have no intention of taking this out of the box. The display box, I mean, it's set up to look like a box of Slim Jims. So whoever came up with this idea might be the smartest person alive. So that is my 5 count. Kevin, bring it home.
Some similar, but the good thing is I made a 10 count just in case. There's a lot of stuff that I owned as a kid. My number 5, it's probably the cheapest thing. Just 6 years ago, WrestleMania, I mentioned during my intro video, the get to know us videos, that my wife and I, we went to Santa Clara for WrestleMania, and leading up to it, I swear, for a good couple months, she just kept on saying, I just want a gold dust mask. That's all I want. I just want a gold dust mask. Leading up, we went to Alcatraz, day before WrestleMania. I want a gold dust mask. So I'm like, girl, I don't know if they're going to sell them there. Lo and behold, right when we get there, semi-trucks loaded up everywhere. Gold dust mask. And $5 or it was $10. And she wore that thing for like a portion of WrestleMania. My son was born. I put the gold dust mask when he was like a month old. My cat's worn it. I always try to scare my family with it. It's just more sentimental. It's nothing cool, but I still own it. It's in great shape.
Put it on.
I will put it on to talk about the rest of my 5 count.
Now, Kevin, I was at that WrestleMania, and I didn't know you were there because we didn't really talk at that time. And I was very impressed with Laura and the gold dust mask. We met up later that night in the Hulk Hogan shirt. So props to her for taking part in that. So
no, I'm very lucky because she tolerates my love for pro wrestling. Number 4, I did mention this, or it kind of went around. My son has a couple toy belts. He kicks my ass on the regular, defending those belts. But I did always want a real belt, right? It even if it just sits on the shelf, I just feel like I don't know if I would take it to live shows. I don't think I would. I just want
No, don't do it. Unless you're going to defend it, don't take it anywhere.
Exactly. I've always thought, just the big gold World Championship belt was one that I always wanted. It looked awesome. One, growing up, it was just so big, and bigger the better, when you're growing up. So that was number 4. Number 3, I showed him a lot earlier, my Hasbros, my LJNs. I just love figures. I'll never get rid of them. I'll be 50, 60, 70 years old, and whenever I die, my kid's going to take them, and hopefully he loves them as much as I do. Number 2, I always wanted a Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy. My friend, I've said it to you guys before, growing up, my damn friend Alan had multiple wrestling buddies.
Fucking Alan.
Always
Yeah.
wanted one.
Hate Alan.
I always wanted a Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy growing up. Because, you always see the commercials, you wrestle with him, and then it's like, oh, let's watch a movie. And he can just hang out with me and watch
Home Alone.
Yeah. But number one, when you guys were going through your 5 counts, I was like, oh, please don't say this. Please don't say this. And you guys didn't. Growing up, Brian, you mentioned LOD walking down the aisle with the shoulder pads. You get just memorable things, Brutus the Barber with his scissors, different things. Growing up, all I ever wanted to be is in that front row where Bret Hart would take off the sunglasses and give them to a lucky kid. Like, I was always just like,
you're like, what? You can swear on this show, just so you know.
I was always so jealous, right? And I actually was looking them up earlier. And Jay, you can flash up a pair of them when I'm talking. Like, I might just buy a pair because I want to see how you see through those. Like, I was always younger. How do you see through those reflective pink glasses?
Your eyes.
Well,
One way to do it.
thanks, Captain.
General,
But yeah,
get it right.
I always really wanted those Bret hot pink sunglasses. Still do.
That is a great 5 count. The Bret Hart glasses. I always thought maybe that he knew that kid that he was giving it to, but it was a different kid in every city. And if a grown man knew a different kid in every city, that might be a little problematic. We'll be back next week with another edition of the 5 count.
Who made your 5 count? Let us know on social media using the hashtag TWP5count.
Before we get out of here this week, we are introducing a brand new feature to the show that we like to call Promo Mania. Now, originally, we bought the very expensive Promo 5000 prize wheel. Unfortunately, we couldn't figure out how to make it work on camera. So therefore, we are going to go digital, virtual. And the premise is this. Joe is our wheel man. He's going to spin the wheel. And it has all of our names on it. And one of us will have to do a promo based off of a list of topics that have been predetermined. So let's go to the wheel man. Joe, let's spin the wheel and see who is giving the promo next week.
All right, here we go.
Love the sound effect.
Brian.
Come on.
And like it says, and the winner is. Are there any winners in this? Probably not. So next show, Brian will be doing a promo, which could be on man buns, local commercials, motivational posters, or one of my favorites, wine coolers. So, Brian, are you ready to find out your fate for promos?
I am hoping for motivational posters because I'll do John Cena all day, every day. That's
All right, let's find
ready.
out.
Let's see what I got. Press your luck right now.
No whammies.
No whammies. Stop on gum.
Wire hangers it is. So next week, Brian is going to show wire hangers who's boss.
Oh, my.
Wow.
Outstanding. All right. The challenge has been laid down. I'm ready.
We are out of time for this week on That Wrestling Podcast. Thanks for everyone that has listened, subscribed, commented, followed, rated, reviewed, and thanks to We Are Wasted for our entrance music, Dangerous Darren for the voiceover, Brian, Kevin, Joe. Thanks for being a part of this, and we will talk to you next week because we are out of time.
Thanks for listening. Follow That WrestlePod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
1, 2, 3, that's it!